Do you ever just feel like your family life is one constant scramble? I mean, who doesn't, right? Well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to dive into Stephen Covey's amazing, timeless principles for building a really strong, effective family. And hopefully, we can turn some of that chaos into a shared sense of purpose. Okay, let's just start with this because it is so important. That's kind of surprising, isn't it? But wow, it's also incredibly relieving to hear. Covey kicks things off at just normalizing the struggle. See, the goal isn't to be this perfect family that never ever messes up. That's impossible. So if that's not the goal, then what is? Well, Covey uses this fantastic analogy of an airplane. Think about it. A plane is actually off course for most of its journey. It's constantly being pushed around by wind and weather, but it still reaches its destination. Why? Because the pilot has a clear flight plan and a compass to make all these constant little corrections. And that is the secret, knowing where you're going and having the right tools to get back on track when you get knocked off course. Now, what's really fascinating is why having that family flight plan is more critical today than ever before. I mean, just look at this slide. The contrast is dramatic. 50 years ago, the biggest problem at school was, what, chewing gum? Today, well, families and schools are dealing with much heavier issues. Those old community support systems that used to be there, they've weakened. And that puts so much more responsibility directly on parents to figure out how to navigate this whole new world. So the big question is, how do we build that flight plan? How do we get that compass? Well, that is exactly where the 7 habits come in. You can think of them as the practical tools for navigating all these modern challenges and for building a family culture on purpose, by design, not just letting it happen by default. So here's the thing. Before you can build a great team, you have to master yourself. It's just that simple. The first 3 habits are what Covey calls the private victory. And that's because they are all about your own character, your own choices, and your own discipline. It really, truly all starts with you. And habit 1 is the foundation for everything else. Being proactive means you understand that between what happens to you and how you react, there's a little bit of space. And in that space is your power to choose your response. It's all about owning that choice instead of just being a victim of your circumstances. And this just illustrates the difference perfectly. You see, reactive people, they focus on their circle of concern, all the stuff they can't control. They're blaming other people, using language like "there's nothing I can do." Sound familiar? But proactive people, they focus on their circle of influence, on what they can actually do. They take responsibility and use language like, "Okay, let's look at our options." And the coolest part, when you focus there, your circle of influence actually starts to grow. All right, so once you're in control of your own responses, you need a destination. Where are you headed? Habit 2 is all about defining what your family stands for. What are your core values? What's your purpose? This becomes your family's compass, a really clear vision that can guide every single decision you make. And listen, creating this mission statement doesn't have to be some stuffy corporate retreat, okay? The process is actually pretty straightforward. First, you just explore your values together, what truly matters to your family. Then, you write it down, creating this shared vision that everybody feels like they have a piece of. And finally, and this is the most important part, you use it. It becomes your guidepost for making all those constant little course corrections we were talking about earlier. So you've got your destination. Now you have to organize the journey itself. And this is habit 3, put first things first. I want you to think of your time as a big empty jar. Most of us, we fill it up with sand and pebbles first. The emails, the errands, all those small, urgent tasks. And then we try to cram in the big rocks, things like quality family time, our health, our most important relationships. But they just don't fit. The secret is to put the big rocks in first, and then let the sand and pebbles fill in all the space around them. This makes sure that what matters most is never at the mercy of what matters least. Okay, so once you've mastered those internal habits, you've got a really solid foundation to build on with other people. And that brings us to what's called the public victory, which is all about making that shift from me to we through real teamwork and communication. This tree analogy is a fantastic way to remember how these next 3 habits work together. So the foundation, the root of every single healthy interaction is habit 4, think win-win. This is a mindset. It's the belief that in any disagreement, there's a third, better alternative out there that's good for everyone. It's not about your way or my way. It's about finding our way. And with that root in place, you can then take the route, which is habit 5. And when you do that, you finally get the fruit, which is habit 6. Now, underneath all of these public habits is this incredibly powerful idea, the emotional bank account. Just think of every relationship you have as having one of these. Every single interaction is either a deposit or a withdrawal. When you listen without interrupting, or you keep a promise, or you offer a sincere apology, you're making a deposit. But when you criticize or ignore someone or break their trust, you're making a withdrawal. The strongest families have built up these huge reserves just by constantly making small, consistent deposits. Wow. This quote just perfectly captures the core challenge of communication, doesn't it? We each see the world through our own unique lens, a lens that's shaped by all of our experiences. And this is exactly why Habit 5 is so critical. The key to bridging that gap in perception is empathic listening. And this isn't just listening so you can reply, it's listening to truly understand. It's about taking off your own glasses for a minute and trying on someone else's. You have to diagnose the situation from their perspective before you can ever hope to prescribe a solution that will actually work. So what happens when you combine a win-win attitude with empathic listening? You get synergy. This is where 1 + 1 = 3, or 4, or even more. It's not about compromising. It's about creative cooperation. So, let's say you want to go to the mountains for vacation, but your kids want to go to the beach. Synergy isn't just splitting the difference and being miserable. It's about finding that amazing lake house with a sandy shore that everyone is genuinely excited about, a solution that's way better than what anyone could have thought of on their own. So you've built this amazing system for your family. That's great, but how do you keep it going? The final habit is all about renewal. It's about making sure these principles lead to a life of lasting significance. Let's be honest, you can't be an effective parent or partner if you're totally running on empty. Sharpening the saw is all about taking time for regular renewal for yourself and for your family across these 4 key dimensions. And this is not selfish, it is absolutely essential. This is where family traditions like a weekly fun night or just some one-on-one time become the engine that keeps everything else running smoothly. Ultimately, what these habits do is move a family along this really powerful path. You start out just trying to get by. That's survival. Then you find your footing and you create stability. And from there, you start to achieve your goals and you find success. But the ultimate goal, the real aim, is significance, creating a family culture with a purpose so strong that it goes beyond the family itself and makes a positive contribution to the world. Look, this is not about doing all 7 of these things perfectly by tomorrow. It's about just starting somewhere. So as you look at this list, which one of these habits really resonates with you right now? What is the one small, proactive choice you can make today to start building a more effective and ultimately a more joyful family?